Hi, I am Christian Baldini, and I am the music director of the Camellia Symphony Orchestra in Sacramento, California. Today, I am going to tell you a little bit about the beginning of our season 58, which in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic is not exactly as we expected it was going to be when we were planning it. Besides performing music from the core symphonic repertoire, such as in the past seasons performing Bruckner's Symphony No. 7, many works by Mozart and Beethoven, or the Brahms German Requiem, our orchestra also prides itself in performing works by underrepresented composers. So in the just past couple of years alone, we've presented entire programs featuring works by Latinx composers and by African American composers. We've also made a pledge to make the concert hall more inclusive, more equitable, and more diverse. So we have been performing works by female composers, at least one work by a female composer in every single concert. It is in this spirit that after 7 months of not being able to play together due to the pandemic, we started rehearsing with our musicians outdoors, safely, socially distancing, wearing face masks. And we've come to the conclusion that one wonderful act we could make for our patrons, for our community, and for the good of music is to record a brand new work especially written for us by an extremely talented female composer from Iran. So in this spirit, we are opening officially our season with the upcoming release of this recording, which will be completing this coming week, by the wonderful Iranian composer Aida Shirazi. Let me tell you a little bit about Aida's music before we actually get into a little interview that I did with her remotely. She's responding safely from her home in the Bay Area. Her music is unlike any other music I've ever come across. I've had the pleasure of conducting it before. There was a piece that she wrote for the ensemble Dal Niente from Chicago, which I had the pleasure of conducting the world premiere of. I would describe her music as very pictorial in a sense. It really works with your senses, just like when you see a painting in which the artist works with different gradations of one same color. I would describe her music in those terms. It is very precious, very beautiful, very sensitive. At times it seems, if you're not careful enough when you listen, it seems static, but within this static moment you can actually sense lots of details and moving parts that are actually happening. She trained in her native Iran, then she also studied in Turkey. She will tell you a lot about her training and what she seeks to communicate with her own music in her own words, but it is my pleasure to bring her and her music to your attention and to share it with our community. I think this is a very important recording for our orchestra and for the world of music, and I hope everybody will enjoy getting to know more about Aida and about her music. So without further ado, here is a set of questions for the wonderful young composer Aida Shirazi.
My name is Aida Shirazi. I'm a composer based in the San Francisco Bay Area. I was born and raised in Iran and come from a family with great love and admiration for music and poetry. I grew up around Western and Iranian classical music. My parents and my brother used to play music when they were young. And my grandfather was an amateur tar player. Tar is an Iranian traditional instrument, by the way. He would also play the piano. He couldn't read music, but he would play by ear and improvise a lot on the piano. So my first memories of live music come from my grandfather playing on the piano. And since we had a piano at home, I started taking lessons at the age of 8. Later, when I was 11, I started learning the santur, another traditional Iranian instrument. So playing and listening to different kinds of music and being around poetry influenced my musicianship and my trajectory as an artist and musician. I did my undergraduate degree in classical piano performance at the University of Arts in Tehran. Then in 2011, I moved to Turkey to study composition at Bilkent University. In 2016, I moved to California to do my PhD in composition, and right now I'm working on my dissertation. In my music, I like to take my listeners to a journey because that's what I experience while writing music. I feel like with almost every piece, I change a little bit and become a slightly different person. And since I draw inspiration from things that are meaningful to me, such as poetry and the music that I grew up with, or even nature, I believe that my music is very personal and pretty much a reflection of who I am as a person. So in each piece, I kind of try to open up and reveal part of who I am, hoping that my audience will experience something similar through my music. And what they experience might be different, might be actually very different from what I did while writing music. And that's okay, as long as they go on their very personal and introspective journey. I have reached my goal. Umbra is also an experience. Unlike actually several of my pieces, Umbra is not inspired by any text. Rather, it is based on a sonic and visual idea. So the string instruments are my favorite instruments to write for various reasons. First of all, they sound very much like the human voice, which is another favorite medium of mine to write for. And also, strings are extremely versatile instruments because they are capable of creating so many subtle and beautiful timbres and colors. So in Umbra, I try to focus on these timbral qualities and create a music that transforms kind of glacially and focuses on these slight and subtle timbral changes. And these transformations and changes result from moving the bow along the strings of the instrument. And for example, starting from a spot almost on the bridge and moving very slowly towards the opposite direction of the strings, which is the area that is very close to the area that the left hand plays on the instrument. So while listening to Umbra, rather than looking for very obvious motivic patterns or any kind of active rhythmic or melodic figures, I recommend the listeners to follow those very subtle and slow changes in the timbre and the color of the sound. And I would also like to think of the piece in its entirety as a single three-dimensional object that floats in the space and rotates in an extremely slow pace. So it's as if we are looking at a single object at all times throughout the piece, but we see it from slightly different angles as it changes its direction and moves around itself. My recommendation to young musicians is to work hard and be extremely patient and persistent. I also think that it's extremely important for us to be honest with ourselves and to remember that being a musician and artist is a lifelong process of learning. There's really no end to what you're doing.